travel writing, it sounds glamorous, but what's a myth about the job that students should know?
It's not like you're on vacation. A lot of people have this like idea that, oh, you're going on these free trips and you're just lounging and doing all these fun things. When in reality, you're there, you're taking a million pictures, you're finding people to interview, you're trying to get interesting quotes, you're taking notes about what you're seeing, smelling.
If a student wanted to write one travel story this month, what kind of topic or angle would you suggest they start with?
Find what you love and become an expert on that. And then if you can tie that in with a travel trend, then you're good to go.
Welcome back to the Essay Pro podcast. My name is Kennedy. I'm your host for this evening. And the podcast title for today is How to Break into Travel Writing with Sharael Kolberg. Hi, Sharael. Would you be able to introduce yourself to our listeners so they know a little bit about what you do?
Sure, yeah. First of all, thanks so much for having me. I love working with people that are trying to break into travel writing and help them find a good path to get where they want to go. I've been a travel writer for about 20 years, and I've had the privilege to write for some of my favorite publications like Travel and Leisure, National Geographic, Lonely Planet. So I'm very excited to share how I got to where I am with your listeners.
Nice. That's absolutely wonderful. So,
Yeah.
Sharael, you've written some you've written for some of the biggest names in travel publishing. Can you tell us how you first discovered your passion for travel writing?
Yeah. Interestingly enough, I was actually born in Germany. My dad was in the Air Force.
Nice.
And yeah, we lived there till I was 5 and then relocated back to the US. And I was raised in California.
Hmm.
But my parents brought a lot of the German traditions to the US. And so we would have like bratwurst and sauerkraut, and we would do these
Yeah.
Christmas traditions. And so I kind of grew up very curious about the world and other cultures. And that really sparked my interest in travel. And then from a very young age, I always loved writing. And my first gig was writing for the school paper in junior high. So I just combined those, and yeah, that's what I found works for me, and that I'm very passionate about.
Nice. What part of Germany are you from? I lived in Bonn for like 4 months.
Oh yeah, my family was in Wiesbaden.
Okay. I don't
Yeah.
know where that is, but
Oh, it's very near Frankfurt.
okay, near Frankfurt. Okay, I know where that
Yeah.
is. That's nice. I got to
Yeah.
go back there
Yeah.
sometime. I miss it.
Yeah, it's very beautiful.
Yeah. So, what was your first published travel piece, and what was the process of that coming to fruition?
Yeah, so I basically I ended up studying journalism in college. I went to the University of Hawaii,
Mm.
and my first published work, it was, well, first of all, for the college paper. I wrote for the college paper, but then when I was a senior, I also loved adventure and outdoors, and I joined a competitive outrigger canoe team. So I knew a lot about that. And then a magazine started when I was a senior in college called Hawaii Paddler. And it was a niche publication. And since I knew about paddling and I was a journalism major, they gave me a chance and I started writing for them. So I was so excited. That was my first like big glossy magazine story, and I just was so happy to see my article in print. So that's kind of where I first started, but that evolved. So I covered adventure sports when I was just starting out, like skiing and kayaking and mountain biking. And then as my life progressed, I changed. My husband and I had a daughter, and I changed to family travel as my niche. And then now that my daughter has flown the nest and is off on her own career, I've switched to adventure travel. So I kind of started with adventure sports, family travel, and now adventure travel. So it's been a progression.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, so my first travel pieces were about family travel,
Hmm. That's
and
interesting.
yeah, and at that time I was writing for outlets that are no longer being published right now.
Hmm.
So just smaller ones.
Okay, so like outlets that kind of went out of business, or?
Yeah, like about.com. I did
Mhm.
some travel writing for them. And later on, I did some writing for Expedia, but they're no longer doing their travel blog. So things
Right.
like that. Yeah.
Well, I love Expedia. I wouldn't
Yeah.
travel without it.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
only website I use. No travel agent.
Me too.
Yeah. So Cheryl, looking back, what do you wish you had known before starting this field? Anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I wish I would have known, everyone always told me when I was going into this field, oh, you can't make any money as a writer. It just doesn't pay. And that is true when you're starting out, but that's true for a lot of different professions.
Hmm.
So I do know editors right now that are making more than 100 grand a year. So you can make money at this profession, but you have to, um, first of all, be okay with rejection. It's kind of like being an actor. You're going to send a lot of pitches. And you're going to get a lot of rejections, but you just have to keep trying and be consistent and don't give up. So yeah, I would just say that you can make money at this, and just keep moving forward.
You mentioned acting. I know the struggle. I dabble in it myself, you know.
Oh, nice,
It's
nice.
a lot of no's, but you got to have thick skin. And I feel like it's
Yeah.
kind of very similar for writers.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Rhino skin over here. Um, so for students who love travel and writing, I love to travel as well. What's
Mhm.
the first steps that they should take to explore travel writing?
Well, I would recommend three things. First of
Mhm.
all, find your niche, what you really are passionate about, and what you really want to focus on. And that can change as mine has.
Mhm.
Um, but really find what you're passionate about, find something that you have insight to. So for me, it was being outdoors, doing adventure, and that parlayed into travel. So definitely start with a smaller niche. Don't be so broad, because the smaller your niche that you're writing about, you can become more of an expert. So
Mhm.
definitely figure that out first. And then as far as writing and pitching, I would say start with smaller regional outlets first. So if you have a newspaper in your town, definitely reach out to them, especially if they're not covering travel. Ask if you can write a travel column for them. That's how I started, just starting with the local newspaper. And then with anything, you start small and you work your way up. So start with a city paper or city magazine, and then you can go on to like a county wide magazine, um, and then you just work up to national. So definitely start small, and just work your way up. And then the third thing is to network.
Mhm.
Definitely try to get in front of editors in person if you can. Join some professional writing organizations. You can even meet over Zoom. Follow people on LinkedIn. One of my mentees actually found me on LinkedIn, and she just reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm a new writer. I'm looking for a mentor. Would love your advice." And I was happy to work with her. So
Mhm.
just don't be afraid to reach out to people and ask them if they can help, because people like helping others. So
Mhm.
definitely network as much as you can.
Yeah, that's something I feel like I've been dealing with this year. Like just not being afraid to just ask for what you want. You
Yes,
know what I mean?
that is my number one thing. Is I tell everyone, just ask, because you're not going to be any worse off if they say no.
Yeah, it's like I heard this quote. I don't know where it's from, but it was like, "Never be your first no." Let
Yeah.
somebody else tell you no if they want to tell you no,
Right.
but at least
Right.
ask around, don't put, yeah,
Yes.
that's
Yeah,
amazing.
for sure. And start you're not going to like meet someone and say, "Hey, can you give me an assignment?" But
Mhm.
I think younger people are intimidated by networking sometimes. And it really is just a conversation. It's a conversation to let editors get to know you, what you like, where you live, what you prefer to write about. And it's a conversation where you can get to know more about the publication, what they're looking for, what types of things they cover, how much they pay, how long their articles are. So
Mhm.
I would very much recommend networking. And you can, again, with that, you can even start small. It doesn't have to be necessarily like this huge like conference where there's 500 people, which can be very intimidating and overwhelming. It also
Mhm.
doesn't have to be just a one-on-one with an editor, which can put the spotlight on you and make you nervous. It can
Mhm.
be just a small group. A lot of the national writing organizations, like for example, there's the Society of American Travel Writers, um, that a lot of them have like local chapters that you can go and either meet on Zoom or meet small groups in person, and just start that way, just with small groups. And yeah, just get used to networking because that really plays a big part.
Network, network, network. Ask for what you want.
Yes.
These are all
Yes.
gems. Beautiful. So, do you think that having a journalism or writing degree is essential, or can passion and persistence be enough?
Well, I don't know that it's essential because I know a lot of writers that have degrees in different things.
Mhm.
But if even if you don't have a degree, a bachelor's degree in journalism or writing, you definitely want to at least take some classes just so that you know the language. And when an editor asks you for something like a nut graph, or you just know what they're talking about and know how to write effectively and really draw the reader in. So you definitely want to know some basics. But I also think the other part of it, again, going back to the niche, is becoming an expert in your field that you want to write about. So, for example, when I got into adventure sports, when I first started out, I was doing the outrigger canoe paddling, which fell under that category. So I was an expert in that field. So therefore, I could write about it. I also did a lot of um, rock climbing, and so that was something that I knew the lingo, I knew what it took, I knew the gear. So definitely becoming an expert in your field is going to make you stand out.
Hmm. Okay, that's good. So
Mm-hmm.
expertise over like, or just like a dedication to what topic and like passion over formal education about kind of broadness of journalism.
Yeah, I mean, a bachelor's degree is going to be necessary up the ranks, and a
Hmm.
bachelor's degree in journalism or communication um, might get you further with a job as an editor. So I would definitely recommend a bachelor's degree, but
Hmm.
it doesn't necessarily have to be in writing or journalism. Just take some extra classes to learn more about that. And yeah, just work on being an expert in your field.
Okay, cool. Do you like a theater major? Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
did. All right, cool. Um, in your opinion, how can beginners build a portfolio if they don't have bylines yet? Would you suggest blogs, campus papers, or pitching small outlets? You kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, but just kind of want to hone in on it.
Yeah, I would recommend all of those things. Definitely, if you're in college, write for the college paper. Even if you're not sure if this is what you want to do, just give it a try, because if you decide this is what you want to do, it looks really great to have that on your resume. I know that a lot of campuses, or some campuses, also have for women. There's a publication called Her Campus, HER Campus, that's an outlet that college women can write about life on college, and you can incorporate travel or tips. So there's different ways to get your foot in the door, but I would definitely say if you haven't had the chance to get published, for sure start a blog, because what you're trying to do is just show editors that you are consistent, that your writing is very high quality, and that you have a niche that you're writing about consistently. So definitely start with a blog, even if it's every couple of weeks. It doesn't have to be like every day, but even, just to show consistency and that you're serious about wanting to be a writer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Consistency, practice, practice, practice. That's
Yes.
good. That's really good. So, Cheryl, from an editor's perspective, what makes a great travel story stand out? How do you keep your writing fresh and avoid cliches when describing destinations? There's so many out there.
Yes. Well, the first question, I would say there's three parts to that: what
Mhm.
editors are looking for and what makes something stand out. The first thing is that it has to be timely. So, for example, I just got back from a press trip to British Columbia, this beautiful resort, like this remote wilderness resort, and it was phenomenal. But there's so many beautiful places in the world that you could write about. But what makes it a good time to write about that right now? So, for example, the place that I was at, they just started offering this new helicopter tours to go up to the top of this mountain to do a hike or swim in a lake and have lunch. So it has to be something that's either new that's being offered. Maybe there's a new hotel that just opened, um, or a destination is offering a new attraction or activity. So either something new or something that is following the current travel trends. So since we're going into winter, one of the trends for 2025 is coolcations, meaning like cold weather destinations. So if you're going to Alaska and you want to tie that into, oh, this is a great coolcation destination. So either something new or something that ties in with the current travel trends. And keeping up with the travel trends is very important as a travel writer. And if you just Google like 2025 travel trends, you should come up with a list of a bunch of different reports that various companies put out on what the trends are. So definitely keep up with the travel trends. So something new is the first thing. The second thing is, why are you the best writer to write that particular story? So an editor gave me an example. Say there's 5 journalists going on a press trip. They're all doing the same exact press trip. They're staying at the same place. They're eating at the same place. They're doing the same activities. Why should the editor choose you to write the story versus the other journalists that are on that trip? So if you can find like a personal perspective, um, so for example, I was in Quebec and I was doing this ice canoeing, and I had a unique perspective because I used to paddle canoes in Hawaii. So I could say, oh, wow, this is how it's different. This is how it's the same. So if you can find a tie in that makes it personal, it'll be more interesting for the readers. Um, so again, why are you the best person to write that story? And then lastly, what makes that story a good fit for the publication that you're pitching to? And that
Mhm.
takes research. You have to consistently read the publications that you want to write for so that you know what they've written about already. So you don't pitch something that they've already covered. So you know the types of things that they cover and whether or not your pitch would be a good fit. So that's the first part. And then the second part was, what was the second part of that question?
It was what makes a
Oh,
great okay, yeah,
how
and
to
how do
keep
you
it
keep your
fresh.
fresh yeah, and
Yes.
avoid
Okay.
cliches.
Um, yeah, and avoid cliches. I
Mhm.
mean, it is really hard not to write with cliches, but it's something you really want to avoid because it's just going to sound more authentic and original if you don't use cliches. So the way that I like to do that is add in like a sensory perspective. Like, what am I seeing? What am I hearing? What am I smelling? How do I feel? So if you can really make it again personal and bring that sensory awareness to your articles, they're going to be more interesting, and hopefully you can avoid the cliches when you're doing that. And then I am constantly using a thesaurus because there's a million ways you can say the same thing. So just pop it into your thesaurus and say, what's a different way of saying this?
What is what's a common cliche when it comes to this kind of writing? Like,
Oh gosh, there's so many.
this is all new to me.
Yeah. So, oh gosh. Oh, well, for example, the words hidden gem
Oh, of
are
course.
very taboo right now. I mean, it's like there's got to be a better way to say hidden gem. So
Right.
it's basically taking something that is a generic description and making it more specific, right? That's
Hmm.
what a cliche is, very kind of a generic way of saying something.
Yeah.
So instead of saying, oh, I went on this hike and it was a hidden gem on Maui. You could just describe it instead of saying hidden gem. Like, what does hidden gem even mean? So
Yeah.
instead of saying that, you would just describe it like, oh, I went on this hike and it was, I was in my flip flops and my feet were getting covered with the brown dirt, and there was foliage, going over the path that we had to push out of the way to see where we were going in this remote area of Maui, that not many tourists know about, right? So that kind of says like, oh, it's kind of hidden off the beaten path is another kind of cliche. So just
Hmm.
be more descriptive.
Yeah, it kind of immerses your reader into the experience with you rather than just throwing beaten path at their face or hidden gem. That's good.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
really good. Okay, Cheryl. So travel writing, it sounds glamorous, but what's a myth about the job that students should know? What are some less glamorous or practical challenges of being a travel writer?
Well, I would say it is work. It's not like you're on vacation. A lot of people have this like idea that, oh, you're going on these free trips and you're just lounging and doing all these fun things. When in reality, you're there, you're taking a million pictures, you're finding people to interview, you're trying to get interesting quotes, you're taking notes about what you're seeing, smelling, doing. You're trying to find out the history. And so it is a lot of work. It's not like a vacation at all. Um, and then the other thing is, um, when you're first starting out, you want to make sure that you're going to earn more than you're going to spend on press trips. So a lot of times, press trips you will be hosted for free. Like a visitors bureau might pay your way because they have something interesting that they want you to cover. But you have to take into consideration that you still will probably have to pay your expenses to get to and from the airport, from your house. You might spend some money on a meal at the airport. You might have to take an Uber once in a while you're on the trip. So there are some expenses. And when you're new, you might be getting paid $300 for an article, and maybe you spent, 150 on travel expenses. So just be aware of that for sure. Um, and then the other thing is when you're new, I would say don't accept a press trip until you um, have an editor that is interested in having you write about it and publish it. Because otherwise, what happens is you'll accept a press trip and you'll go, and then you'll get back and you can't sell it. And then that just doesn't look good, leaves you with a bad name. So they call that press trip debt, which is when
Mm.
you go on a trip and then you come back and you're all stressed out because you're like, oh my God, I need to get this published. I need to write about this so that, you know, I can pay back the debt of the person, for hosting me. So that can be very stressful.
That sounds very stressful.
Yeah.
Traveling though, I love traveling. The
And
vacation.
And
No.
the other thing, the other thing also on press trips is, especially if you're with a group, there's two
Hmm.
types of press trips. One is where you're with a group of other journalists and a public relations person, um, and you're all together doing things. Another type is when you're just on your own and doing the experience. But I would just say that, like, when you're in a group press trip, um, you want to not accept a press trip without getting an assignment first, if at all possible,
Hmm.
because that way you're going to go back and have something to write about and know that it's going to be published. And yeah, that's the best way to go.
So it's good to get an editor beforehand to avoid
If
that
you
day.
can, yeah, at least I call it soft pitching. Some editors don't like you to pitch until you get back,
Hmm.
but if you can just do a soft pitch beforehand, say, hey, and always tell the editor that you're being hosted on a press trip.
Hmm.
Don't ever like think that that's going to ruin your chances. You have to know the publication. Do they allow you to accept press trips? And if they don't, then don't write about something that you're getting for free.
Yeah.
But
Sorry to
yeah,
interrupt. Is there a
so
reason like they wouldn't accept people who do press trips? Like they want people who like spend their own money to go places, or?
yeah, there are publications like the New York Times. A lot of newspapers, national newspapers, do not allow press trips because they feel as though it might um, jade the writer because they're getting it for free. But,
Mhm.
we're all professionals and we know what's ethically right and
Mhm.
what's not. So, I prefer to work with outlets that trust me as a professional to give an unbiased opinion on my experience.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, all that matters is that you're going there, you're experiencing it, and you're writing about it. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Um, so in this era of social media that we're in, we all know that it plays a big role in our lives. How can new writers use social media to get noticed? And how does that compare with how you went about getting noticed?
Well, I mean, I think social media, you never know if something's going to go viral. So, whenever you're traveling, or even if you're just in your hometown,
Hmm.
you can start posting about fun things to do, a new restaurant, or, I mean, even if you're not like spending the money to do these things, you can at least like go to the restaurant and say, hey, look, here's this new restaurant that just opened. This is what they're offering. And then I would always ask if you can have that place tag you so that
Hmm.
your posts are going to their viewers,
Hmm.
because that's a great way to get um, in more viewership. So I always post when I travel for work, especially. I do it. I'm not an influencer, and I don't have a huge following because that's not what I do. But I do it just as an added benefit to the person that's hosting me, to show them, hey, I want to reach as many people, even though I'm going to publish an article about your destination. I'm happy to post online to share it with people that are going to find out about you that way as well.
Hmm. So it's kind of just like an added benefit, but not like the main
Yeah,
outreach.
for me, it's just like an added benefit. But
Hmm.
again, having said that, you never know when your content could go viral and you're
Hmm.
doing something super cool, and then all of a sudden you have all these followers, and that's another route that you can take into travel content creation,
Hmm.
versus writing. And I feel like you kind of are either one or the other. It's really hard to do both because they're both full-time jobs. So travel writing versus travel content creation. But when you're starting out, sure, try both and see what really resonates with you.
Hmm. Yeah, that's good. That's really good advice. Thank you.
Sure.
Um, for students with let's just say limited budgets, what are some affordable ways to gain travel experiences that they can write about? I mean, you mentioned a little bit, kind of just pulling up and writing about it from the outside, but anything else?
Well, I would definitely recommend setting up a meeting with your local Visitors Bureau, because they are always eager to work with travel writers and journalists. So find out who to contact at your local Visitors Bureau, set up a meeting and tell them what you want to do. And there could be a couple of different things. They might either give you an opportunity to write for their blog on their website, which is a great way to get some published work, or they might partner you with one of the local vendors in your city, whether it's a restaurant, a hotel, an activity, and get them to host you to do something. So I would definitely say just start in your own backyard. Um, and there's a lot of great experiences. I know when you think of travel, you think of leaving where you live, but there's a lot of people that might want to travel to where you live. And there's a lot of experiences that don't cost anything, like a great hike or the best time to, or the best place to go watch the sunset. So kind of look at it from those perspectives that you do have a lot just in your own backyard.
Mm-hmm. Look out the window, people.
Yes.
Look out the window.
Yeah.
There's hidden gems all around you.
Yes.
All right. Okay. If a student wanted to write one travel story this month, what kind of topic or angle would you suggest they start with?
Well, I would say two things.
Hmm?
One, again, I know I keep saying this, but find what you love.
Niche it.
And yes, find your niche. Like I know an influencer who she started out with, it was a very small area where she lived, the best hiking trails in her small town. Like
Hmm.
it was so like niche. But because it was so niche, she gained a huge following that were very engaged with her content because that's what they wanted to do. They lived in her town and they wanted to hike. And so it was, she had a high engagement rate. And that parlayed into her working as a writer because she became an expert on hiking. And she started off writing about hiking in her small town, but then now she writes about hiking internationally and has done really well. So, again, just find what you love and become an expert on that. And then, if you can tie that in with a travel trend, then you're good to go. So, if you are a solo female, that's a trend that's trending, solo female travel.
Hmm.
So maybe write about that, and how, you know, what your experience is as a woman traveling alone, even in your own town. What does it have to offer? What should you consider? What are some safety things? What are some ways you can meet other women while you're traveling? Just, definitely try and tie in a travel trend with something you love, and you should be good.
That's interesting. It's like the opportunity seems pretty limitless, you know? You can do hiking here, or you can do hiking elsewhere. Talk about how the hiking is in, say, Germany. Talk
Yeah,
about how it is as a single woman in Germany. It's kind of interesting.
yeah,
Just keep going. That's
yeah,
great.
yeah,
Limitless.
definitely. And that's exactly it. You're building, you start with the foundation and then you grow from there.
Hmm.
And it is limitless.
Yeah.
And whoever says like magazines are dead or print is dead, um, there are so many outlets to write for. You don't have to write for the biggest, most well-known outlets or magazines. There's so many like small publications. I think I heard the other day that scrapbooking magazine is like the has the highest subscription of any magazine out there or something.
Scrapbooking
So
magazine.
it's like there's so many publications that are so small, or trade publications, or a million websites, and there's always someone that you can write for. So don't be discouraged, and don't just try to go big. Try to start small, and the more things you have published, the more editors will see that you're dependable, you're reliable, you can meet deadlines, you can meet the word count, and that your writing is interesting. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Cheryl.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Can you share a travel assignment or trip that kind of changed your perspective as a writer?
Yeah, I think one of my most memorable trips was a couple years ago. I went on a group press trip to Patagonia,
Mhm.
and it was so amazing. We were coming out of winter into spring, so it was still pretty cold, but we did things like we hiked in the national parks, we kayaked with icebergs, and it's so remote and it's so hard to get to. And it literally is at the end of the earth. I was on the Chilean side. It's split between Chile and Argentina. And I think the most impactful thing was seeing the glaciers and how much they have receded due to global warming. Actually, seeing it in person, the impact that our planet has seen because of global warming was very eye opening. And then also with responsible tourism, there was a forest that we hiked in that had been there was a forest fire there, and it was someone who was trying to start a campfire when they weren't supposed to be starting fires in that area, and it just burned acres and acres and acres. And
Mm-mm.
in the climate in Patagonia, it doesn't regrow
Oh.
because it's so cold and it's such a harsh climate that they will not grow back. The trees will not grow back. So again, now you have to go with a guide to hike through that particular forest so that it doesn't happen again, because it won't return. So again, that just taught me how important it is to be a responsible tourist and follow the rules, stay on the trails, pick up your trash. So yeah, those two things I really saw firsthand, the damage we can do as travelers and tourists, unless we are very thoughtful on how we're um, traveling in the areas that we visit.
Yeah. Perspective, perspective, perspective.
Yeah,
That's good. That's good. I'm glad you learned something interesting. That's good.
yeah.
Um, so who are some travel writers or publications you recommend students to read for inspiration?
Well, I mean, obviously, the biggest travel publications are Travel and Leisure Magazine and Condé Nast Traveler Magazine. Um, those are kind of like the go tos when people are thinking about travel writing.
Hmm.
But there's also great books, like Bill Bryson has some interesting travel books. So I would say basically decide on the type of writing that you want to do and then read those publications. So if you prefer what's called first person narrative, which means that you're describing from your perspective what your trip was like, then read those types of publications and articles. If you want just more of like top 10 lists, of this is what you should do in a specific destination, then go to USA Today top 10 best list, and things like that. So just
Hmm.
read what you want to write, um, for sure. And another good outlet that I would recommend is called Matador Network. They're
Hmm.
really great at working with newer writers, and they do offer opportunities to apply for press trips. And I feel like their content is really fresh and uh, vibrant and interesting to read as a traveler. So that's one that you might not have heard of that I would recommend as well.
Okay. Do you prefer kind of the first person writing or the more of the top 10 stuff?
Um, I think I like both. As
Hmm.
a traveler, I love the top 10 because if I haven't been somewhere and I'm like, I want to make sure I see the top things to see in this destination, I love the top tens. Um, but as a writer, I love first person narrative. I love really sharing my experience with readers.
Hmm.
I really enjoy that.
That's great. That's good. Yeah, I love reading like first person too. That's good.
Yeah.
Um, so if you had to leave students with one golden rule for breaking into travel writing, what would that be?
Um, Keep pitching. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's the only way you're going to get published is you have to keep pitching. And you might send out 20 pitches and get 19 rejections, but you only need that one. I kind of look at it a little bit as like a realtor. A realtor puts in all this work without getting paid until they sell that house and then they make their money. So that's kind of a similar way you have to look at it. And a lot of people, when they're starting out, they will have like a full time job or a part time job and then just do their writing on the side until they get enough articles published and then they can have more credibility with editors. So there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you're just starting out and you're working full time, even if you just write one article a month, I mean, that is great. And you do that every month, you're showing consistency, you're showing dependability. So there's nothing wrong with having a job to make some money and then slowly getting into travel writing.
That's good. That's good. Consistency, slow and steady wins the race.
Yes,
Great. Okay, Cheryl, you ready for one last question?
you got it.
Okay. What encouragement would you give to a student who dreams of seeing their byline in a place like Lonely Planet or Travel Plus Leisure?
Again, start small, start with the
Mhm.
small publications, and you literally just work your way up.
Yeah.
So once you've written for a local newspaper, say you've written like a half a dozen stories for them, then
Mhm.
you can have the confidence to start pitching a regional, magazine or newspaper. And then once you have written a few for them, then you can start pitching to national publications. So start small, keep writing. And that's where a blog is really great because you want to keep consistent with your writing. And the other thing I want to point out, most publications work with AP style. So if you can spend time getting to know AP style,
Mhm.
then your editors are going to love you because then they won't have to edit your work as much. I used to think when I was young out of college, like, oh, I don't need to edit my work. That's what editors are for. But
Mhm. That's
no,
amazing.
no. If you can make it easier on your editors by not having the grammatical errors, they are going to love working with you. So definitely no AP style for sure. Um, and back to the blog, just keep writing. Even, your pitches are writing. So when you write a pitch, that you are showing your writing in that pitch as well. So writing pitch letters, writing your blog posts, and again, networking, joining organizations, um, sitting in on webinars because there might have like breakout rooms where you can talk with each other, getting to know other writers, reaching out on LinkedIn. And then my most important tip is to be unique, be yourself, and find your voice that sets you apart from anyone else.
Wow, that's great. Well, thank you, Cheryl. This has been very insightful. I feel like I learned so much.
So I have a question for you.
For me, let's go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you were going to write a travel article,
Hmm.
what would your niche be and what would you want to write about?
Well, I'm a foodie, so
Ah, that's great.
I would love to write about just food places I try along the way, what I ordered, what kind of drink I got while I was there, and like talk about like the type of. Honestly, I like to drink as well sometimes, but I'm not like an alcoholic. But I like to try like okay, what kind of beer do they have? Or like what's their specialty martini, and like their most popular food menu. And
Yeah.
yeah, so this summer I'm going to Italy and then a cruise to Greece. So maybe
Wow.
I'll dip my toe in the pond of writing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Culinary travel is a great thing to write about for sure.
Hmm.
There's a lot of outlets. Have you heard of Eater?
Eater?
Yeah.
I've not.
Eater is a website. You should check it out. They
Okay.
do a lot of great culinary travel articles.
Mhm.
So maybe you
I'll
could
look.
read them. You never know.
Yeah, I'll hop on the old Eater and take a look. Thank you.
Sure.
I'll
Well,
definitely keep
sounds
on
like a
mind.
great trip. Good luck on that. That's gonna be fun.
Well, thank you, Cheryl. I really appreciate it. And for our listeners out there, remember you can use code 20thread for 20% off your first order with SA Pro. And on that note, we're going to be signing off here. Thank you so much, Cheryl.
Thank you, Kennedy. It was such a pleasure talking with you, and I hope I had some helpful insight for your students.
You did. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.